The coffee houses were there already, you understand, and the wine and beer bars. And we were mostly making music and hanging out. At this point, the poets come in, and things change because people are interested in them. The world looks at them. And where they may have said things to themselves, they now started saying things to the world. And you declaimed your poetry with jazz behind you. At that point, and it's something that is very important for you, if you're talking about the 50s, please understand bebop. It's important that you, I'm telling you, there was, now that again was an unarticulated statement by the black junkie musicians who were dying. It was, for the first time, there was a music of death. The music, and everybody died. I mean, Bird died in the early 20s, and everybody was dying. And for the first time, the black musicians were no longer making a music that spoke about life. The beauty, no matter what garbage cans it talked about, they were, for the first time, there was death. And it was palpable. My black musician friends we'd scream at each other. Try this one if you want the 50s in that respect. I had gone to the whole enchilada. I had listened to jazz at the Philharmonic. I had read Lenny Tistrano and Barry Ulanov. I had bought stacks of 45s or whatever they were, 33. And I listened and I was surrounded by black musicians who kept yammering at me. It's music, it's anti-Bach, it's music, it's anti-Bach. And then they would drag me into the Fillmore, and we'd go down to the basement, and they all had little beards, and they all played How High the Moon. And they all had the same posture, and they all had that little Van Dyke, and they all didn't have any blood. It was a strange music. It celebrated the death of these wonderful, brilliant, ultimately brilliant young black musicians who were all falling off from junk and horrible living. What effect did it have? They had a mass audience, whereby we would be happy to get 50 people into a room to listen to our yammering. The beboppers had thousands. I mean, Jazz at the Philharmonic had thousands. And again, there was an existential, I have to use a European word, existential little attack. People were smoking marijuana there, and there was a whole thing that all of a sudden somebody would blow an incredible high note and just scream. I remember in Chicago. You want a moment in time? This is on the south side of Chicago. And there's a contest. There's a contest. And I'm sitting there, and we're beginning to realize that a very beautiful young man is going to win this contest because he's blowing everybody off the stage. He is amazing. He's amazing. He's a very light-skinned, beautiful young man. And he's amazing. He's blowing these amazing riffs. And there's no question that the others are, and remember, I didn't like bebop. And this was beautiful music. And the judge finally says, well, that's it. The guy wouldn't quit playing. He would not quit playing. He sits playing this glorious, glorious music. And tears start rolling down his face. And they carried him off. He was still playing. Interesting metaphor. It had no effect whatsoever, except its own world became enlarged. Modern jazz. Gigantic audiences. New York was filled with little jazz clubs where everybody was very cool. And you sat at your little table and sipped your drink, and we were very cool. And the coolest musicians turned their back on the audience.